All right, let's jump right into this explainer. I want you to picture something pretty familiar. Tonight, millions of parents will put their child to bed in a room of their own. They're going to lay them down in a crib with soft sheets, maybe turn on a baby monitor glowing warmly on the nightstand, close the door, and finally enjoy a quiet house. You probably wouldn't even think twice about it, right? It feels completely normal to us. But we have to contrast this quiet, solitary modern nursery with the terrifying, predator-filled reality that our ancestors faced for over 300,000 years.
Because here's the thing. While you might safely leave your baby alone in a modern crib today, for 99.9% of human history, doing that meant they would be dead by morning, period. There were no cribs to protect them, no monitors to alert the parents, and definitely no pediatricians to call. There was just the dark, the freezing cold, and literally everything out there in the wild that could smell a newborn from a quarter of a mile away. Leaving an infant alone wasn't just risky, it was an absolute death sentence.
Why was it so incredibly dangerous? Well, it's pretty simple. Human babies are, without a doubt, the most helpless creatures on the planet. Think about the rest of the animal kingdom for a second. A newborn horse is standing up and walking within hours of being born. A newborn chimpanzee is incredibly strong and grips its mother's fur, holding on tightly from the very first minute. But a newborn human? We are born entirely unfinished. A human infant can't even hold up its own head, it can't walk for a year, and it is completely and utterly defenseless.
To put this into perspective, let's look at the numbers, because they brilliantly illustrate exactly why we are born so helpless. It's the ultimate evolutionary trade-off. A chimpanzee is born with its brain at about 40% of its adult size. But human babies, they're born with their brains at roughly 25% of their adult size. Why the big difference? Well, because the human brain is so massive that if it grew to that 40% proportion before birth, it would literally never fit through the birth canal. So biology made a deal. 75% of your brain development has to happen outside the womb while you are completely defenseless.
It really boils down to this crucial evolutionary trade-off. We got the most powerful brain on the planet, but the price we paid was the most helpless infant on the planet. For 300,000 years, every single mother who gave birth faced this exact terrifying equation. A baby who couldn't cling to you, who couldn't run away, and who couldn't even stay quiet when danger was near, wasn't exactly a gift in a world full of leopards, hyenas, and snakes. It was a highly vulnerable target.
And that brings us to the absolute core focus of our explainer today. How on earth did early humans keep these completely defenseless infants alive? Well, the answer lies in the incredible survival technology of carrying. See, when early humans became bipedal, walking upright on two legs, and lost their thick body hair, human babies suddenly had absolutely nothing to hold on to. So mothers had to invent what we call survival technology. They fashioned slings out of animal hides and tough plant fibers, carrying their babies every hour of every single day. In fact, archaeologists actually found a 10,000-year-old burial site in Italy holding an infant named Nev, who was buried with a beautifully decorated baby carrier. The takeaway? They never put the baby down.
Now, here is where it gets really fascinating. There's this biological magic that happens the literal second you pick up and carry a baby. It triggers what scientists call the transport response. And this isn't just about a baby liking a change of scenery. When a human infant is picked up and held against a moving body, their heart rate physically drops, their breathing instantly stabilizes, and they stop crying, just like that. It's an ancient biological program wired directly into their tiny nervous system.
Because out in the wild, a crying baby is basically a dinner bell for hungry predators. So a baby that goes dead silent the moment it's carried is a baby that stays alive. Think about that the next time you pick up a screaming infant and they suddenly, magically calm down on your chest. That isn't just comfort you're providing. You are activating a 300,000-year-old predator evasion reflex. The baby's deeply wired, ancient nervous system is telling it, okay, we're on the move, stay completely silent so we don't get eaten. It is absolutely mind-blowing when you think about it.
But you know, as incredible as that transport response is, just carrying a baby around 24/7 solo wasn't going to cut it to keep these helpless infants alive. Which brings us to anthropologist Sarah Blaffer-Hrdy's simple yet totally devastating argument. Unlike chimpanzee mothers who raise their offspring entirely solo and will actually attack anyone who tries to touch their infant, humans had to evolve to raise children as a tightly knit group. We are what biologists call cooperative breeders. We shared the weight. Because honestly, if we didn't, our entire species would have gone extinct.
The data behind this cooperative survival is just staggering. Take the FE foragers in the deeply remote forests of the Congo. Researchers found that a single baby is held by an astonishing 14 different people in just an 8-hour period.
The mother only holds the baby about 40% of the time. The other 60% of the day, that child is being held, carried, and protected by aunts, older siblings, grandmothers, and neighbors.
And fathers were absolutely in the mix too. Among the Aka people of Central Africa, anthropologists discovered that fathers spend a massive 47% of their day within arm's reach of their infants. And let's be super clear here. This is not some modern progressive parenting trend. These are men living the exact way humans lived for hundreds of thousands of years. The baby was never alone, never on the ground, and never not touching somebody. It was just ancient survival protocol.
Of course, keeping that baby alive also meant feeding it, which was just as communal and honestly pretty intense. The Paleolithic feeding reality was stark. Mothers breastfed for a minimum of 2 to 4 years, and often way longer. There was no baby formula, no bottles, and absolutely zero safe drinking water. Breast milk was the only sterile food source available, and it was packed with vital antibodies in a world with zero medicine. But it also did something absolutely crucial. Intense breastfeeding actually suppressed ovulation. It was nature's built-in birth control, perfectly designed to prevent mothers from having 2 completely helpless infants at exactly the same time. Having 2 at once would have been a statistical death sentence for both of them.
And when it was finally time for solid food, well, they obviously didn't have baby blenders, softbox cereals, or mashed fruit in tiny glass jars. What they had was pre-mastication. Basically, a mother, a grandmother, or a helper would chew tough roots and meat until it was soft and then pass it directly lip to the baby. I know it sounds wild to us now, but this shared crucial saliva, digestive enzymes, and immune cells straight into the child. In fact, some anthropologists actually believe this intimate feeding practice is the evolutionary origin of human kissing. So not romance, just ancient survival.
But this whole communal setup relied heavily on a group you might not expect: grandmothers. In the rest of the animal kingdom, most species just die shortly after they can no longer reproduce. But human women live decades past menopause. Why? Anthropologist Kristen Hawkes studied the Hadza people and made a brilliant discovery. Postmenopausal women were actually the hardest working foragers in the group, spending hours digging tough tubers in the hot sun just to feed their grandchildren, and this allowed the mothers to have another baby sooner. So menopause wasn't a biological breakdown, it was a brilliant evolutionary strategy to ensure the survival of our genes. It's a concept known in science as the grandmother hypothesis.
So, when you contrast our evolutionary history with how we live today, the difference is it's night and day. The average mother in a Paleolithic hunter-gatherer band always had an entire network of hands, somewhere between 5 and 15 people actively helping her raise each child, every single day. Fast forward to the modern industrialized world, and that number is usually just 1 or 2 people.
And this completely explains why modern parenting often feels so insanely overwhelming, especially at, say, 3 a.m. when you're sitting in the dark with a crying baby and literally nobody is coming to help you. For 300,000 years, no human ever raised a child alone. Never. So if you're feeling exhausted, it is not a weakness. It's for sure not a failure of character. It is simply a biological mismatch with hundreds of thousands of years of human evolutionary history. You are literally never meant to do this by yourself.
So I'm going to leave you with this final, provocative thought to ponder as we wrap up this explainer. Look at the immense network it took to keep just one of us alive. Look at the incredible biological reflexes, like the transport response, that still run through us today. It really begs the question, in our modern, isolated lives, are we stubbornly trying to do alone what our bodies, our brains, and our entire history were so masterfully designed to do together?